My audio rack usually looks like this. You have my streamer on the left, a CD transport on top, you can see my DAC in the middle, you have two power amplifiers and a preamplifier on the lower shelf, and all of that did cost me an arm and a leg. Would you believe me if I told you that EverSolo just released a product that does everything my system does and a little bit more at infinitely lower price? This thing is called EverSolo Play CD Edition and it goes for 800 euros here locally and for 800 US dollars across the pond. And let's check every feature available for this one and then let's talk about its sound in the usual fashion. If you are wondering what it does, I feel like I need to explain every feature available on this one, because except for the Gold Note IS10 I reviewed around 2 years ago, I don't remember testing anything as feature-packed like the EverSolo Play. First of all, it's a wired or wireless streamer. It's also a music server if you connect a USB flash drive. It's also a Roon endpoint if Roon is your jam. Before you ask, it also supports Qobuz Connect, Tidal Connect and Spotify Connect, so you can bypass its UI and use those native apps directly on your smartphone or tablet. This is also a high-quality DAC, an integrated Class D amplifier that outputs 60 watts per channel in 8 ohms or 110 watts in 4 ohms, which should be enough for most passive loudspeakers out there. This is also a CD player, CD transport and CD ripper, letting you rip your favorite audio CDs to a flash drive or SSD connected to it via USB. You don't get a remote control with this one, and I already feel some of you raising your eyebrows, but don't worry, there are several ways to control this one. First of all, we have a 5.5-inch HD touchscreen, and if you are sitting in its vicinity, then you can control it via its touchscreen. If you are sitting on a sofa and you need a nicer control over your speakers and music playback, then you can install the EverSolo app available for both iOS and Android devices. And once you install it, the app becomes a remote control for your unit and every single feature is available from there. Thirdly, you can mirror its screen directly to your phone or tablet, just in case you like its default user interface a little bit more. This connection is done via Wi-Fi, so everything moves swiftly without stutters or anything like that. If you are a Tidal, Spotify or Qobuz user, then of course you can stream music directly to the EverSolo Play without using any other third-party app. This is by far the most convenient way to control the EverSolo Play, especially if streaming is your thing. Last but not least, this is also a Roon endpoint, and if you already have a Roon server installed somewhere around the house, then you can control the EverSolo Play via Roon. If you have ever tried Roon, then adding the Play is simple and straightforward, and you have the full freedom to control the volume via the volume rockers on your phone or tablet. In the end, there are 5 ways to control this one if you are using streaming services, and 3 ways to control this one if you are spinning CDs all day long. The build quality of this thing is pretty impressive. It's molded from aluminum, we have tempered glass on top of its touchscreen, we have aluminum radiators beneath the unit, including a few openings for a nice heat dissipation, plus we have 4 wide aluminum feet with rubber inlays that should null the vibrations coming from within the unit. The unit isn't that heavy and it's not that hefty or big, so you can accommodate it in a small hi-fi setup without a problem. Since it does everything and you only need a pair of passive speakers, a hi-fi rack like mine is no longer needed, so you can put it on the floor or on a TV bench and it still won't attract a lot of attention. As for controls from left to right, we have an ARC/eARC input, optical, coaxial, line-in and phono inputs, and yes, you can select between an MM or MC phono input in the user menu. You can ground it if you still have some ground loop issues. There's a gigabit LAN input, a USB OTG to which you can connect a flash drive, or external SSD. A USB output is next, to which you can connect an external DAC. We have a subwoofer output, a coaxial output, and a pair of speaker terminals. Wi-Fi is also on board, so you can stream music wired or wirelessly, but after doing some back and forth comparisons, I believe that it performs a little better via Ethernet. The EverSolo app is one of the most impressive apps that I have used with a streaming DAC, and if you have ever tried their DMP A6, A8 or A10, then using the Play with the EverSolo app will feel right at home. Absolutely every feature is at your fingertips. You can select the input, the output, access the music stored on an external SSD or flash drive, and you can mirror its screen on your smartphone, automatically flipping into a landscape view. Once you insert a CD, I'm not sure how it does it, but besides getting the metadata as track names, it also shows the album art on its screen, a pleasant surprise that I didn't expect. Playing or ripping CDs is exactly as intuitive as you might imagine, and personally for me, the EverSolo app is the benchmark to which others should compare. It's constantly updated with new features, the bugs are hammered out in weeks as opposed to months or years, and EverSolo seems to genuinely care about their products, not only from a software perspective, but also from a hardware view. I wasn't able to open it up and film some of those internal components, but I will just mention that it uses an AKM AK4493 DAC chip with a velvet sound technology that should smooth out the rough edges and remove all of the unwanted sharpness and treble ringing. The integrated amplifier works in Class D operation, and it provides 110 watts per channel in 4 ohms and 60 watts in 8 ohms, which should be plenty for most speakers out there. We have a pretty interesting power supply that monitors the temperature, protecting it from overheating, overvoltage, and overcurrent. It uses a Hitachi LG optical unit with anti-vibration chassis, significantly reducing resonance and vibrations during CD playback. Last but not least, everything is powered by an ARM CPU that controls a custom interface that moves quite fast, and it seems quite reliable as well. Before I dive deep into its performance, first of all I want to say that if you don't want to invest a small fortune like tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of US dollars into a hi-fi system, and you want to start with something that does it, very well, that works and doesn't have any kind of bugs, then getting the EverSolo Play is very easy to recommend. It's so small, its build quality is very good, it sounds great, it does so many things, and it doesn't cost you a fortune. Now, everything that you see on my audio rack took me about 15 years to buy, so I didn't get it everything in a day or in a year. And yes, all of that sounds pretty legendary, but if I would do it all over again 15 years ago, then I wouldn't hesitate to get the EverSolo Play. Back then, I didn't have all-in-one devices. Wired or wireless streamers weren't really a thing. They were invented much later on, so I needed to have separates, and that's how I got, a separated DAC, a separated streamer, preamp, monoblock amplifier, so on and so forth. But right now, there is so many things that were crammed in the EverSolo Play. It's kind of hard complaining about it, especially at this price point. Right now I'm running the firmware 1.4.76, and in 4 days of testing I didn't experience a bug testing it as a room endpoint, playing CDs, ripping CDs, trying it via Qobuz Connect, Tidal Connect, trying that screen mirroring feature, so everything just works flawless, and I didn't get a bug or anything like that, so I'd say this is a rock solid performance. Even without hitting play and without experiencing its sound, I see an unbeatable value with the EverSolo Play, especially the CD edition that offers you a CD player, CD ripper, and CD transport. It's unbelievable, but such units finally exist, and yes, this is a proper all-in-one unit. The only thing that is missing, and I would like to see, in a Mark II unit somewhere in the future would be a headphone jacks, or maybe 2 headphone jacks, a single-ended and a balanced one. That would be a true all-in-one wonder box that does everything. After removing every single component from my audio rack, which took me a while because those are not so lightweight, I powered the Play, I connected an Ethernet cable, I connected my radio speakers to it, I launched Qobuz. On my smartphone, I tapped on the Qobuz Connect icon, I choose the EverSolo Play from a shortlist and let it play for a couple of hours before drawing any conclusions. Right off the bat, I was surprised by a couple of things, and let's talk about them one by one. First of all, the slight, and I mean really slight, digital glare and listening fatigue and a little bit of treble glare that was present on the third generation EverSolo DMP-A6 is no longer here on the EverSolo Play. And this, is, my friends, is actually quite a big deal. That wasn't the case with the DMP-A8, that one is quite expensive. That wasn't the case with the DMP-A10, that one is very expensive, but it's quite a big deal that we don't have, you know, a little bit of sharpness or listening fatigue or brightness on such an affordable all-in-one unit like the EverSolo Play. I remember testing 3 entry-level integrated amplifiers from SMSL a couple of years ago. 2 years ago and then 1 year ago, I believe. I forgot the model numbers. One of them was A0200. And those were quite noisy, those were quite bright sounding, and the radio loudspeakers are not playing well with bright sounding amplifiers. These are actually quite ruthless, so they need a little bit of life, vividness, a little bit of warmer tonality coming from the downstream equipment, and that is what I'm getting from the Play. So I believe EverSolo nailed this time around the tonality of the Play, because it's no longer, you know, adding a little bit of brightness in there, and the mid-range ever so slightly seems boosted, which personally I enjoy quite a lot. I let it play for a couple of hours. I wanted to be sure that what I'm hearing in terms of tonality will be, you know, true after a couple of hours. I did that again on the next day, and I did that again on the third day, because I wanted again to be sure that its tonality is not changing with some kind of burn-in. And sure enough, it adds a little bit of bloom in the mid-range. It didn't change in this regard. The treble seems relaxed, it's not adding any kind of brightness or listening fatigue, so I like this part because I can listen to every tune I want, even some treble intensive tracks with these radio loudspeakers, which are not playing well with treble intensive tracks. But all of that was actually not just manageable, all of that sounded good on the Radio TD 2.0. After a while, I started listening to some bass heavy tracks. As you know, most of the power is actually consumed by the bass, and if you go really loud, some amplifiers start clipping, some amplifiers start distorting, some are just lowering the bass energy quite a lot. And there is not so much power on top on this EverSolo Play. These loudspeakers are considered hard to drive, and sometimes I reached close to max power, but to my surprise, it was never clipping, it was never distorting, the basses were always clear, and all of that energy was never going down. So I had all the signs that the integrated amplifier is performing very well, even with difficult loads like TD 2.2. I started playing then some progressive and then some blues tracks that I know very well, and while the mids didn't steal the show like, you know, a tube amplifier would do, I could still hear the beauty within, getting a relaxing sound at the end of the day. Secondly, I observed that the ribbon tweeters of the Radio TD 2.2 were dead silent at 0 and at maximum power. And again, this is actually a pretty big deal, because I remember trying a few amplifiers again from SMSL a few years ago, and those were noisy even at 0 power. And that is very bad amplifier design, because noise floor should always be very low. You should hear the noise floor of the recording, you should not hear the noise floor of the downstream equipment. And that is not happening with the Play. It's actually dead silent even at maximum power. The integrated amplifier inside the Play is based on TPA3244 chips made by Texas Instruments, and those use a little bit of negative feedback at higher volumes and a little bit of error correction again at higher volumes. So this is the reason why I'm never experiencing any kind of distortion or any kind of noise, even at max power. Maybe it's a little bit not so refined when going, close to max power, super loud. It's not as refined sounding in the mid-range. It sounds a little bit harder in a way, but at the same time, I don't hear any kind of distortion or noise. So I believe this is a very good compromise. This is a good amplifier design. Thirdly, I needed to test the limits of its integrated amplifier. Sadly, not a lot of hi-fi reviewers are trying the limits of integrated or power amplifiers, because usually at much higher volumes, at high power output, they start showing off some of their limits, like a higher distortion, some noise, maybe the frequency response is shifting, maybe the sound is harder and not so refined. So again, I need to go louder just for a few minutes, maybe for an hour, to be sure that it can drive my speakers and to be sure that I'm not hearing any kind of artifacts or anything like that. And this is where I found the first problem. This thing is not the most powerful integrated amplifier in the world. First of all, with DSD recordings, sometimes I was reaching max power, and with PCM recordings, that would be at around -5 dB. It was loud, but not very loud. And yes, I could reach even max power with PCM recording. So I'd say that it works very well with speakers that have a sensitivity of 86 dB or higher, but with lower than 86 dB per 1 watt of power. This thing will be struggling to reach a higher SPL like 100 dB sustained. So it cannot provide you super loud SPL. It's okay, but don't expect it to play very loud. So again, just take this into consideration. If you want to get the play, make sure to have some speakers that have a higher sensitivity than 86 dB per 1 watt of power. And obviously the play is not the best choice for loudspeakers that are dipping their impedance to 2 ohms, especially in the bass region. It cannot provide lots of current, so the power supply is not super powerful, so don't get it for loudspeakers with an impedance of 2 ohms or lower. Lastly, while the soundscape was not huge and the soundstage was not super enveloping, like it happens on mono amplifiers or on single-ended triode amplifiers, the sound was not so upfront, it was not so claustrophobic like it was the case with those entry-level SMSL amplifiers that I sent back. So I'd say that the stereo separation is actually pretty impressive on this little thing, and I was surprised that a few notes were coming from different angles. The sounds were bouncing from these walls and were hitting me from different angles. And all of that was pretty clear. The imaging was very clear. I'd say that it gets easily an 8 out of 10 in terms of stereo separation and soundstage. Although the play is meant to be used with streaming services, all kinds, there are many other things, not just Qobuz, Tidal, and Spotify. You have Apple Music, you have Amazon Music, and many other streaming services. The absolute best sound that I have experienced via EverSolo Play was when I started spinning CDs. 2 months ago, after returning from high-end Munich show, I bought an Onyx XST20 CD transport, and that thing changed my life in quite a big way. I actually bought 25 CDs in about a month. I bought 6 Super Audio CDs, and I have many other CDs that I bought because it sounds better than the absolute best streamer that I have tried in my life, an Antipod streamer that is very expensive. And the Onyx CD Transport sounds just better to my ears. And of course, I tried a few CDs on the EverSolo Play, and sure enough, yes, it sounds better when trying to play CDs as opposed to streaming via Roon, Qobuz Connect, or Tidal Connect. It's quite a big change, actually, not only in terms of resolution, but also in terms of layering, in terms of how refined everything is sounding, how natural everything is sounding. In terms of timing, it's just right, precise, clean and natural. Now, of course, the EverSolo Play is not performing on the same level with the Onyx XST20. That one is just CD transport, it doesn't have a DAC inside, so I'm using my Rock now with that one. But still, the change was there and it sounded considerably better, I'd say, via CDs. So prepare for a surprise, as spinning CDs will sound considerably better than any wired or wireless streamer, and of course, buying CDs can be your next hobby. It's certainly mine. And now let's talk about some of the nitpicks that I have found with this unit. First of all, we have that ARC/eARC input, which I'm pretty sure is important to lots of you guys, but for me, as an hardcore audiophile, I would like to trade that one with an I2S output, so I can use the EverSolo Play just as a streamer or just as a CD transport connected to a higher end DAC. This part is not present on the EverSolo Play, but I totally understand it. My second nitpick is that for a proper room correction, you'll need to buy separately an omnidirectional microphone from EverSolo called EM01. You can do that with your smartphone as well, but don't expect the microphone from your smartphone to perform at a similar level with the EverSolo EM01. I also don't like that you cannot use this one as a USB DAC, so forget about connecting this one to your PC and start listening to music, playing games or watching movies. That is not possible. We do not have a USB connection for its DAC section. We do not have a headphone jack, as I told you before, so I would like to see one in the next generation in a Mark II EverSolo Play, but right now we don't have a headphone jack. And lastly, it will drive most of your passive loudspeakers, but not all of the passive loudspeakers. The power output is not the most fabulous. As much as I would like to compare this one with a couple of all-in-one devices and tell you everything about them, sadly, such a competitor right now doesn't exist, especially at less than $1 The Gold Note IS10 that I have reviewed some 2 years ago is almost as feature-packed, but it's not as powerful when it comes to features, and it's also by 3 times more expensive, so clearly such a comparison doesn't make any sense. But fear not, when such a unit will be available, I'll make sure to film a video and make that comparison for you guys. Wrapping up, except for a few nitpicks that I just mentioned, it's really difficult to complain about anything else. Its tonality was spot on, the noise floor was nowhere to be found, and I see lots of folks rocking an EverSolo Play in the near future because it does so many things. And let's not forget its quite affordable price of $800 or $700 if you go without that CD optical drive. I'm usually leaving awards in my written reviews for something that truly impressed me, but I'll make an exception for the EverSolo Play and award this one with my highly impressive award for its performance, for its build, for its sound and for its price. Okay guys, I hope you enjoyed my review. Please consider liking, disliking, commenting, maybe subscribing if you found this video helpful, and I'll see you very soon with 2 pretty interesting videos.